Om Shanti. Let's start with a few moments of connection with God and then we will begin today's session. Sit quiet and still. Collect yourself from wherever you are scattered and go within. Try to ask yourself how close or distant you feel from God right now. Open up your heart and try to feel the subtle presence of God. God is not material. God is non-physical, pure divine energy. I tune in to my subtlety, my purity, my divinity, so that I resonate at the same frequency as God. As I tune into my subtlety, my purity, my divinity, I feel close to God. See yourself as subtle, pure energy separate from this body. I am a being of light, very light and very pure. As I see myself as a pure, blissful point of light, I feel a sense of closeness and belonging to the ocean of purity. I belong to God. I feel His love, His presence around me. I feel nurtured and recharged in His presence. Just sit in this feeling for some time. Om Shanti. Could you follow this meditation that we just did? How many could follow it? Okay. Okay, thank you. So, we were talking about. So, first, before I start, I would like to talk a little about this whole concept of humility. So, sometimes, humility is taught to us as an attitude where I think of myself as less than I am. Okay, so people will tell you that you should think that you are a nothing and a no one, and that you don't matter, and you are just a tiny speck in the universe, and with a whiff of air you can get over. But according to the knowledge given by God, what I have figured out is God doesn't ask us to feel greater than we are or less than we are. And God, or Baba as we know God, Baba, I don't mean any physical person as Baba. Baba means God, pure energy, the way we were discussing yesterday. So Baba says, if you think you are less than what you are, that is also ego. And if you think you are more than what you are, that is also ego. So you don't have to function with an idea of being less than who you are, because even that idea is not the truth. That is also ego. So you are identifying with something that you are not. So if you think you're not pure, that is also ego, because God says you're pure, so you're pure. If you think you are not peaceful, that's also ego, because that's your idea of you, which will limit you in your growth, in your being of in being who in it will stop you from being who you are. So these things have to be taken care of. So when we are trying to know ourselves, we should also know that I am powerful, I am peaceful, I am loveful. I, the soul, have great potential. I am not powerful because I have a position. I am not peaceful because I have resources. I am not happy because I can afford happiness. I am not loveful because so many people love me. I am this in essence and by design. And I should believe in my purity, love, peace, happiness, bliss, and power. And if I don't believe in that, and I say, no, I'm a small human being and I don't have any power, and I'm meek and tiny and powerless. So that is also not a very good idea of humility, and Baba discourages this idea of humility. So when you think of yourself as more than who you are based on your body and your external achievements and accomplishments, that is ego. But when you don't think of yourself the way you are, that is an energy which is powerful, peaceful, loveful, blissful, happy, even that is ego. So this is something that I wanted to talk about before we start today's session. All right. Now, we were talking about who God is, and I told you that God is not a something, He is a someone. And although this word energy confuses us, and we sometimes think that God is energy, so should we think of ourselves as? So who are we? So I am a soul. My quality or my strength is my purity, my peace, my happiness, my bliss, and my power, and my knowledge of who I am and who I belong to. And nobody should be able to take that away from me, and nobody should be able to give me an idea that I'm less than this. Okay. Why do we use the phrase I am humbled? So we don't have to use that phrase anymore. We don't use that phrase. Okay, so actually, when probably you can use this phrase only when God strips you of your ego, which is the superiority complex kind. So, when you come to know of yourself as a being separate from the body and separate from what you do and what you have, then probably you are humbled. That is, you are stripped off of your superiority complex. Okay, so probably that is the only place you can use this expression, I am humbled. So, I know that these are concepts which will take a little time to stabilize in the mind and heart. But when this question comes up, that what do we think of ourselves as? So, when I ask myself, who am I? So I tell myself, I'm a being and I'm defined by my state of purity, my state of peace, my state of happiness, bliss, power, and knowledge. And nothing and no one and no circumstance and no situation should be in a position to take this away from me, because this is my identity. So you must have heard this expression in your childhood that if wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost. And if character is lost, everything is lost. So this is precisely what we are understanding right now, that even if somebody takes away my wealth, I don't lose anything. If somebody takes away my health, so something takes away my health, so maybe it matters a little, or in spiritual terms that also doesn't matter, because even if you lose the body, you get another new one. But what happens if my character, now what is my character? My peace, my purity, my happiness, my sense of my essence of being loveful, or my essence of being in command of who, in the knowledge of, or in the awareness of who I am, or my essence of being an empowered or a powerful soul within, that should not go away. So whatever is lost is okay, you can rebuild it. But if you lose yourself, then it's very difficult to rebuild. All right. So this is a difficult state to maintain. And what do you think? The states you are maintaining are very easy. So the states you are maintaining are also very taxing and very difficult, and that is why you are experiencing peacelessness and unhappiness all the time, despite working for 24/7. So that is also not an easy state to maintain. So this may be effort making, but this is a very comfortable state to be in, and it is worth the effort. So if you make an effort to stay in this state and you succeed in staying in this state, it's an effort that is worth making, worth your energy and time and effort. Okay. Then why others would hurt us, others' words hurt us a lot? Because you have given them the power to hurt you. Okay, so don't give away your power to anybody to hurt you. So, there is a difference between man and machine. So, what is the basic difference between man and machine? So, a person has the ability to choose how he wants to think, feel, talk, work. But a machine doesn't have the power to choose. A machine's remote control lies in the hand of a man. Now we also have become machines. So And you must have heard this expression, pressing somebody's buttons. So they say they press your buttons and you jump up and down. So you have become a machine, and no anybody is able to press your buttons and make you jump up and down. So that's not a good way to be. And anybody who deals with you should know that I can do whatever I want, but I can't make this person feel what I want them to feel. So if they figure that out, then they will be sensibly behaved with you. But since you have given away this idea that I'm very easy to mess up, or you can make me feel the way you want to make me feel, so that person is taking advantage of you. And in order to send out a different message, you have to not react for a very long time, so that they figure out that, okay, now they've stopped being a machine and started being human with choice. Okay. So, do we have the power to heal ourselves physically? Yes, you have the power to heal yourself physically also. And you know, Janki Dadi ji, the chief administrative head of Brahma Kumaris, who left her body some months back, she was 105. And up to the age of 105, you know, she had a back injury when she was around in her 80s. So from that or probably even younger, and she could deal with that pain and work with that body until she became 105. So it is very much possible for you to handle your body or deal with your body or operate your body the way you want, if you, the soul, are the master of the body. But if you are in the consciousness that the body is my master, then any little injury or anything happens to the body and the soul loses its power. Okay. So is my voice low? Voice is fine, right? So Varun bhai, you have to check your speaker. All right. So now, today we will talk about what are the qualities of God, or who is God that we are talking about. So we discussed that God is a someone and not a something. And I asked you to think about whether a someone can be everywhere or a someone has to be somewhere. So how many of you say that a someone can be everywhere? A someone can be everywhere. So you have to prove it to me, because you are a someone. So you please show me how you can be everywhere at one time. Okay, I'm not asking if God can be everywhere. I'm asking whether a someone can be everywhere. Okay, so can a someone be everywhere? And if a someone can be everywhere, then you have to start being everywhere and show me how a someone can be everywhere. So, you know, there is in everybody's mind, yes, your mind can go everywhere. Yes, very good. So, with your mind, you can be everywhere, but you cannot be physically everywhere. That is, you, the soul, will sit here in this body, you are here, but then with your mind, you can be everywhere. That is very true. So, accurate description of how you can be everywhere, and that is precisely the way God can be everywhere. All right, not physically. So God is a someone, God is a soul, just like you are a soul. The only difference between you and God is the supreme soul and you are a soul. And just like you can be everywhere, that is, you can be on everybody's mind, provided they rent you a space in their mind. You can be on everybody's mind, provided they give you a place in their mind. Can you be on my mind if I put on a board of no entry? No admission. You can't enter my mind. Okay, so You can be on anybody's mind if that person allows you to be on his mind. Okay, and somebody can be on your mind if you allow that person to be on your mind. Do you know you have this kind of a door which you can close? So, this brings us to a very interesting question, which is, which way does your so first, is there a door on your mind, or it's an open doorway? So it's, is it an open space, or is there a door? And if there's a door, which way is the handle of the door? Is that handle placed in such a manner that only you can open it from inwards, or is that handle on the outside and anybody can open it and enter and barge into your mind? Or is there no door? Sometimes people have closed hearts or frozen hearts, so they've just shut themselves down and nobody can enter it. So you have to check whether, what is the state of your mind and how is the door on your mind placed. If there is a door in place, and if it is there, which way does it open? Do you have the access to the handle, or anybody has access to the handle? So these are the things you have to check for yourself. So the ideal state is when you have a door on your mind which only you can open from inwards and nobody can open from outwards. Okay, so that's an ideal state to be in. Okay, and so just like you can be on somebody's mind if they allow you to be on their mind, and somebody can be on your mind if you allow them to be on your mind. Similarly, God can be in everybody's mind and heart, and you can feel God's presence provided you open your door of your mind and heart to God. So, God is not like physically present in a manner that even if you avoid, you will feel God. No. So, you have to open your door of your mind and heart to God in order for God to make His presence felt to you. So, in order to understand this, you can compare God to the sun. So, just like the sun is somewhere, not everywhere. So, the sun is there somewhere up above, but the sun is very powerful, and the heat and light of the sun can be available to anybody who opens their doors and windows. But if you keep your doors and windows shut, then the sun can't help you. So, there was a time in my life when I came to know that vitamin D deficiency is caused by lack of exposure to sunlight. So and I came to know that most people in the world today are vitamin D deficient. And vitamin D is so sufficiently available because you get it from the sun, which is shining all day. So then how can you become deficient in vitamin D was a very big question that I had to ask myself. And then when I got myself tested for vitamin D, I came to know that I am also deficient in vitamin D. So then I thought, oh my God, this is a real problem, that you can be deficient in something that is so continuously available to you just because you don't consciously go out and bathe in sunlight. It is available, but you have to open your doors and windows and go and bathe in sunlight. So that's all you have to do. Similarly, God is available 24/7. But He is not everywhere. But you can have access to Him if you open your heart and bathe in the sun called God. Okay, so if you bathe in the energy of God, if you allow God to enter your heart for some time, then God can be available to you 24/7 all the time, but you have to allow God to enter your mind space or your heart. So this is something beautiful about God. Now, how do you connect with God? So in the meditation also, I was trying to give you a picture of how to connect with God. So first things first is, in order to connect with anybody, you should be on the same page. Okay, so if you have come, so I will tell you, there was one brother who once came to the center, and whenever I would talk to him about spirituality and peace and happiness, he would just keep repeating one question, and that is, लेकिन पैसे का क्या? पैसे का बहुत प्रॉब्लम है दीदी, पैसा चाहिए, पैसा चाहिए. Okay, so anything I would tell him about peace and happiness, he would only be concerned about money. And anything I said would, after some point of time, would come back to that discussion on how to get rich. So then, after 5 days, I said, you know what I can give you and what you want from me are two different things. So we are not on the same page. So I don't think if I'm in a position to help you. So I think you should find some other place which makes more sense to you and caters to what you want. So this is something that a connection requires, that you be on the same page and you are asking for something that somebody is in a position to provide, or you are on the same frequency or the same wavelength. So you could have another example about this, which is you all talk to children, and we all know how to talk to a 1-year-old. We know how to talk to a 5-year-old. We know how to talk to a 10-year-old. And how do you talk to a 1-year-old? You become a 1-year-old. When you have to talk to a 1-year-old, you have to become a 1-year-old. When you have to talk to a 5-year-old, you have to become a 5-year-old. And when I first conducted a session for teenagers, it was a disaster. And when I finished that session, I realized it was a disaster. And then I reflected on why it was such a disaster. And then I felt that I am talking to teenagers, but I am not becoming a teenager myself. So I am talking from the point of being a person who is much elder to them, and I'm talking about my experiences and coming from a state of consciousness which is appropriate for my age, but they can't connect to me because I'm not becoming a teenager. So then the next session I conducted, I became a teenager and I talked to them. And then it was a success. So when you want to connect to somebody, you have to become that. So now I can conduct sessions for kids, for teenagers, for elderly people, for people my age, and everybody, because I've learned this formula that connection doesn't require a shift in place or position or age. Connection requires a shift in consciousness. So when you want to connect to God, you have to shift to that consciousness. You have to be on the same wavelength as God. And yesterday we discussed that God is the ocean of love, ocean of purity, ocean of peace. He doesn't have a body. So he doesn't have any ego. He doesn't have any anger. He's not ashamed or hurt or in trouble or miserable. He is very peaceful. He is very loveful. He is very pure. So when you want to have a connection with God, you tune into your state of being bodiless. You tune into your state of being loveful, peaceful, pure, happy, blissful. And when you tune into that state of yours and you become aware that I have access to me and I have access to him, you can feel his presence. You can feel His presence. You can feel His healing energy. You can feel His recharging and nurturing and uplifting energy. And that's a beautiful place to be in. When when I came onto this path and I tasted what it feels like to feel God around you, then I wanted to feel that all the time. And that's why I did not want to go loud, or I did not want to shout at anybody or get angry, because when I disturbed my inner state, I shifted away from God. And being with God was such a beautiful feeling that as soon as my energy got disturbed, I felt that distance from God. And that is something I couldn't afford. And this helped me become very cautious about maintaining my inner peace, purity, happiness, come what may. And then my love for this companionship of God actually enabled me to overcome the pull of people, places, and things that pull me away from my inner state of peace and purity and taint my inner state and make it something else. So this became a very, I don't know how much I'm able to deliver to you, but this was what this was what enabled me or gave me the strength to overcome the pull of matter, the pull of ego, the pull of situations, the pull of all vices. And I could just overcome all those pulls because I wanted to stay close to God. And as soon as I came into that state, I felt a distance from God and I couldn't afford it. So this became a very big driving force for me to maintain my inner peace, happiness, bliss, power all day. All right. So in the meditation, I asked you to reflect on how close or how distant you feel to God. Okay. And if you want to feel close to God, you have to maintain your inner state of tranquility, of lovefulness, of happiness, of bliss, of stability. And as soon as you go away from that, you disconnect from God. Okay, so when you are in that state, you connect with God, and that connection takes you to another level. So one is you take one step of maintaining your peace, happiness, so that you can connect with God, and then that connection takes you another 1,000 steps ahead. So this is why God says, you take one step and I enable you to perform a journey of 1,000 steps. But that one step has to be taken by you. Now, if you want to understand this, you see, we have been doing this in religion for very, very long. So when you go to a temple, the first thing you do is you take off your slippers. And then Panditji will tell you that you should take off anything that is made of leather. Okay, so your belt, your shoes, your anything, bag, whatever is made of leather. But if it is so, then what is this body made up of? So this body is also skin. So if you have to take off everything that is made of skin, then you should take off your body also, but you go with the body. So basically, in religion, everything was symbolic. And what was actually implied in this practice is, when you want to meet God, you rise above your consciousness of being a body. Okay, so you have to take off this cover that I am a body before you can connect with God. But because we didn't know how to do it mentally or how to do it spiritually, So we just made it a physical exercise. So basically, when you want to meet God, you have to rise above your consciousness that I'm a body, because God is bodiless. So you have to tune into your bodiless self. Even you are bodiless. But it's just that you think you have a body or you are a body. So you have to tune into yourself that I am a being of light separate from the body, and tune into your frequency of absolute peace, absolute bliss, absolute power. And then only you have access to God and you can feel His presence and love and embrace. So this is how you connect with God. Now, another thing here is, you think that God solves all your troubles, and God has some lacks of jobs and homes and life partners for you somewhere up in I don't know where. And then when you ask for a life partner, He throws one at you. And then you say, I need a nice job, He will throw another one at you. And then you say, I need a nice house or a big property, then He gives you one, because He has got all of that. So no, God doesn't have all of that. So there is another equation that we have to be clear about. That is, this is matter. So everything is made of matter. Your job, your body, your relationships, everything is matter. So this is matter, this is you. You operate with matter. God has got nothing to do with matter. Okay. So you operate with matter. Now, generally what we do is we stick to matter and we keep calling to God that you come and solve this problem with the matter. Okay. Now God says, no, you operate in this world. I don't operate in this world. So what you do is you move away from matter, come to me, recharge yourself, go back and deal with matter. Okay. So God doesn't operate with matter. So He can do nothing about the material world that we have created. So He cannot do anything about the coronavirus. All right. He cannot do anything with the environmental problem that we have created, because He did not create this. We created this. Now He says, you created this because you were in low consciousness. Right? So now what you do is you tune in to your pure consciousness. Then you tune into me, I who am in the highest consciousness. And with that connection, you recharge yourself. Then you will be in a state of consciousness where you can deal with the problems that you have created and turn them around as well. Okay. Now let me give you a very simple example. Suppose I am not in the best of my moods. All right. And because of that, what I did is I spoke roughly to somebody. Okay. I spoke roughly to somebody. Now I spoiled a relationship. I hurt somebody and that person is not talking to me anymore. Suppose this is the problem I have created. Now, if I pray to God, God cannot do anything about this because this is something I have created. But if I just sit in silence, connect with my pure self, connect with God, take energy from Him, and find the courage to go and accept what I did, overcome my ego, find the courage to go and talk to that person and say that I am sorry for what happened and I want to come back together again, then that solves the problem. So basically, if you look at all the problems in this world, there are two reasons for it. One, they are created in low consciousness. Second, they are aggravated by lower consciousness. So the problem is created because your consciousness is low, and then the problem multiplies or accentuates because you are still in low consciousness. Just like if you couldn't face the truth in one situation, you lied. And then because your lies got caught, you told another lie, then you told the third lie and the fourth lie, and then you are in big trouble. Okay? Now, you were not in the best mood, you got angry, you spoiled a relationship, and then because you had ego, you can't own it up. So that relationship gets spoiled further and further and further. If you look at the coronavirus is there because we have not handled or dealt with whether it is science or the environment appropriately. Now, because now it is there, and then because we are fearful, it attacks us. And then because it attacks us, we get more fearful. So this is how every problem is first created because of low consciousness, and then it accentuates or is aggravated because we don't shift our consciousness. So that is the primary problem. Now, if I want to overcome this issue, what I have to do is, God cannot do anything because this is not His creation. He has not created these problems. And for that matter, He has not created the world also. Let me give that news to you. So we will talk about who created the world and all. But so basically, just like our consciousness creates our problems, our collective consciousness creates the world also. So everything is our creation. God has got nothing to do with it. But if we unplug from the problem and go to the one who is in highest consciousness, by tuning into my higher consciousness, then I can source that energy from Him and come and solve my own problem. Okay, I can solve not only my problems, but every problem around me, because I'm much bigger and much more powerful than the situations I have created. Because the creator is always more powerful than the creation. The creator is always more powerful than the creation. And if my problem is my creation, then I am more powerful than my problem. Got it? So you should always know that there is nothing in this world that you cannot solve, because you are the creator of everything, so you can solve it. So in Hindi you say na, aapne raita phailaya, aap sametiye. So that so if you can do that, then you can also solve it, because that is your creation, and by law, by design, no creation is more powerful than the creator. So if I can create my problem, I can also solve my problem. And that is the basic premise that God tells us: never think you are less than you are. So you are very powerful, and if you think you are not powerful, that is an act of ego. So you are very powerful, you are powerful enough to deal with your life, your body, your mind, your situations, and you are powerful enough to take care of the situations of the whole world. Got it? So this is some truth about God that we talked today. That is, God is somewhere, but you can connect by being on the same page, by tuning into His frequency. And then He doesn't operate with matter, we operate with matter. So any material issue that we have created has to be solved by uplifting our consciousness, by going to God, absorbing power, becoming powerful, and then coming back and solving the problem. Okay, so there are two options in every situation. One is you are connected to the problem, another is you are connected to God. So when you are connected to the problem, then by law, wherever attention goes, energy flows and that thing grows. So you are empowering the problem because you're giving all your attention to the problem. But if you are connected to God, then you are filling yourself with power, and then you are in a position to solve the problem by being detached and active. So, no reaction doesn't mean no action. So, you have to act, but in a detached manner. So, you are attached to God, filling yourself with power, and solving your problem by acting on it. So, this is how you operate. Now, we will talk more about God and His virtues and what He does and how He comes and why do I say He says and talks. We will talk about all of that probably tomorrow and onwards. So today I will take some questions that have come up. Okay, so does God have its own rules? No, there are only rules of the universe. Okay, so these are universal rules, rules of laws of nature, laws of spirituality. So we will talk about these rules in detail, but some of them we are understanding, like attention goes, energy flows, or you are more bigger than your creation, or whatever we understood today, that is, you take one step, he pulls you 1000 steps ahead. So these are spiritual laws. Just like you have laws of physics, you have laws of the spirit. All right. Then does God have man buddhi sanskar? Yes, he has man buddhi sanskar because he's a soul, and we will talk about how his man buddhi sanskar are in a future session. When I get angry, I lose my temper and I just start shouting at the person and I speak bad words to him or her, and after shouting I pray to God what I said just don't come true. So you abuse that person and wish ill of them, and then you pray God that this should not come true. Very nice. And then you feel guilty. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to just change the order, not shout and think and shout. Okay, so whenever something happens, you first shut your mouth. This is one thing you do. Whenever something happens, first thing you program yourself. Whenever something happens, I just have to keep this shut first. And then you go to God, go within, go up, pull your power, and then respond appropriately. Change the order, not shout and think and shout. Okay. Then when you think, you don't shout. That's the issue. So they say, look before you leap. I always conduct sessions on this, that people say, look before you leap, but we leap and then look and keep looking all our life. So you should look before you leap. It's soul connecting with Supreme Soul. Yes. So how to deal with Corona? So you have to deal with Corona by telling yourself that I am in a position to take care of myself so that I don't catch Corona. So I have the capacity to take precautions. And if in the worst scenario I catch it, I have the ability to fight it and eliminate it from the body. So, जो डर गया वो मर गया. So, if Corona cannot scare you, it cannot kill you. And if it can scare you, it can kill you. All right. So you have to fight your fear. You don't have to fight Corona. All right. So this is the thing. So how do we stop judging someone? So, when you accept yourself, so I told you this law that we perceive as we are. So because we are very judgmental about ourselves, that is why we are judgmental about others. Once you start embracing yourself the way you are, you stop judging others. Okay, so, people ask me, how can you be very cool about the way I am? So I said, because I'm cool about the way I am. And I was not very different from you. So I have come this long way, and I know that change is very possible. So if I can change, anybody on the planet can change. So I have hope in faith in you, not judgment for you. So you can do for another person what you can do for yourself. So first, stop judging yourself, embrace and accept yourself the way you are, and know that God loves you anyway, and God gives you strength and power to shift and tweak yourself the way you want. So you can do the same for anybody. Okay. What if another person is not ready to solve the problem? So that person doesn't have to be ready to solve the problem. If you are ready, then that is enough. So this is a myth that it takes two people to solve a problem. It takes only one. So if you are ready to solve the problem, then that person will have to give in to you at some point or the other. So this is something, but you don't give up on the other person, or you don't give up on the situation. So I had heard this very beautiful line from somebody, and they said that a person went to a doctor, and then the doctor said, "Love cures all diseases." And then this person said, "No, I tried it and it didn't work." So the doctor said, "Increase the dose." So it's not that this won't work, it's just that we are not doing it enough. If God is formless, then how did the concept of temples came up? Because jaisi drishti vaisi srishti. So when you see yourself as a body, you want to see God as a body, so you end up giving him one. Because you can't connect with that entity until and unless he has a body. Now I will tell you one thing. This is a very interesting question, and this brings me up to something very interesting. Do you know you don't live with people, you live with your idea of them? Okay, so when you want somebody to be a certain way, you don't care if they are not that. You create them the way you want in your mind. This is what we do all day. Okay, now, why do I say this? Because if you are living with somebody and that somebody is a certain kind, then how can you be disappointed with them? Because they are that. So who do you compare them with? You compare them with your idea of who you want them to be. Okay, so I mostly ask people, you have only one husband. How do you know he is not good? Who do you compare him with? If you have 5, I will know, okay, this one is better or worse than the other 4. But you have only one. Who do you compare him with? So you are comparing everybody with your concept of one ideal one, which exists only in your mind, nowhere in the universe, and which is created and co-directed by Bollywood and Hollywood. Okay. So that is the whole problem. So you are living with people in your mind. So you have created images of people, you have created an image of God, you've created an image of everything. So we don't live with people or God or with anybody. We live with our concept of who we think they are. And that is why we need this whole session as a reality check. That hello, they are not who you think they are somebody else. Okay, so this is why we also created a concept of God, and then gave him gave him the dress we wanted him to wear, and gave him the body we wanted him to see in, and we did all that to everybody. We are doing that to everybody. To children, we do it physically also, because they don't resist it. And to elders, we do it in our mind, because they resist it physically, and because God didn't say anything, we did it physically to him also. So we created forms and figurines and temples and clothes and dresses, and he eats this and drinks this. So I will tell you, my mother used to offer laddu to Ganesh ji when we were children. So we didn't like laddu. So Ganesh ji started eating peda because Ganesh ji didn't care. So we cared a lot about whether it is laddu or peda. So Ganesh ji made an adjustment. So this is how we come up with how God should or shouldn't be based on my taste and my preference. So this is how the whole of bhakti developed. Then should we believe what is written in the Gita? I don't know what is written in the Gita. You have to tell me what you want to believe or not believe. Only then we can have this discussion. Okay, so let's meditate for some time, then we'll finish. Sit quiet. And in this quietness, gently tune into your inner stillness and silence. Take your attention to that core of your being, that place inside you, which is full of light and peace. This core inside me is full of light, full of lightness, and full of peace. There is absolute stillness and silence here. No sound, no movement, not even the sound of a thought. In this absolute silence, I can feel the energy of the ocean of peace coming to me. I feel the embrace of God, who is the ocean of peace. He quietly enters the room of my consciousness. I meet him. I, the child who is peaceful, and he, the parent who is the ocean of peace. This beautiful union gives me a feeling of absolute stillness and silence and peace. Just sit in this communion for some time. Om Shanti.